Hey guys, how's it going? Ghosty Rich here today, and today we are going to be doing a quick diff fluid flush on our Jeep JK here. For other Jeeps, this can work as well, but they might not have a drain plug. You'd actually have to pull the cover off. I know with my brother's TJ, one of his diffs, which is his front, you have to actually pull the whole front cover off to switch. I mean, that's not a bad deal because then you can inspect it, but for me personally, I don't want to have to do that every time. Unless I see something fishy in the fluid, there's no real reason to go in and take that cover off all the time. So, if we take a look here, I've got 3 bottles with a spare up there just in case. So if you want, we'll see if 3 do it. If not, I'll grab that 4th and I'll use that. I'm using Lucas, and as you can see, it's 80/90 gear oil. We just need this. If you don't have a pan like this, you can always grab an old ice cream bucket like that, but we're gonna just use this. Just put it underneath, like so. And I have my light on here so I can show you better. So this right here is your fill. So we're not gonna touch this one right now. You can unscrew it if you want to, but the one we're gonna need to have access to is this one. So if we take a look right there, this right here is our empty. This is our fill, which now that I've moved the light, you can't see anyway. So let's move the light back over here for a second because I want to show you something. A lot of people will look at this and they'll say, oh man, that's a pretty big square. They don't realize for some reason that it's meant for your ratchet. You just pop your ratchet into the hole. You might need a small extension depending. And then after you put it on, you can loosen it off, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. If you end up needing an extension, like I put this is a pretty long one. If you have just a shorter one, for me, I don't at the moment. So I'm just gonna grab this, I'm gonna start loosening it off and just have your bucket ready to catch the fluid as it pours out. Now, one last thing. Some people will say, oh, you should go for a drive before you do this so the fluid gets warmer and thinner. Others will say, don't. Do it the next day after you've been driving so that way all the fluid is in the bottom of the pumpkin. You do exactly what you want to. I'm doing this on well, it's cold, so that way it might take a little bit longer to run out, but it's gonna be all at the bottom. Just like that. As soon as you get that screw out, again, it's on the end of my ratchet right now. That's all there is to it. Just leave it here, let it drain out. Super easy. If you want to, it might speed it up. If not, you can always undo this one as well and then just put them both off to the side. After you've let this drain for a little while and it's done to your heart's content, all we're gonna do is screw the bottom one back in and we're gonna fill from the top. This is the screw from the bottom. If you take a look, it's got that magnet on it. Basically what you do is you're just wiping it off, trying to make sure that there's no metal or anything like that. If there is any light, really light shavings, there might be that. Again, it just depends to you at what extreme you want to pop that cover off and take a look and see what's all going on. This is liquid thread sealant. If you want to, you can throw a tiny bit on around here. If you take a look from the factory, that's what that white layer is right here, is a little bit of liquid thread sealant. It is completely up to you if you want to put a bit of this on. A lot of people don't, and they don't have problems. In case you pull them both out and you're like, oh man, which one went where? Pretty easy. This one has the magnet on it. This is your bottom. The one that's just silver and shiny on the top, this is your top. All right, so mine's basically done. I'm gonna let it drip a little bit longer, but at this point, I'm not too worried. I'm gonna throw a little bit of that thread sealant on. Again, if you are gonna do that, only do it on the top 3 or 4 threads. Don't go back here because you don't wanna get it into the diff. You just want it to seal the last couple threads. And you can see the same on the front. You'll see that only a couple threads actually go in. This one, you really don't need to put the sealant on because it's not really holding anything back. They didn't really put any on this one, but again, up to you. You could just go without. When it comes to putting it back in, pretty easy. Just tighten it up. And as long as you don't go He-Man on it, you're fine. Just tighten it in like you would if you're doing an oil change. If anything, this is easier than doing an oil change. First thing you're gonna do is take the lid off. After you take the lid off, you grab right here, there's a little tab you flip up and then you pull this off and that's exposed. I'll do that in a second. And then you take the little blue tip off like so, and then you cut off how much flow you want. Make sure you don't cut off too much or it might not make it into the diff. So before I pull the cork here, as you can see, I'm gonna just go in at this sort of angle and then I'll flip it up like this. So it's up like that. You're just gonna keep filling this until it starts puking out that hole. That's how you know you're full. Also just monitor your screw if you didn't use any thread lock, because then you can see, well, not thread lock, but thread sealant. But watch for it. Once it starts to overfull, you're done. Now, why did you leave the cap on when he does this? Because if you do this and then you pop it, there's minimum spillage when you go from the hole into there. If you don't go with the cap on, then as soon as you try to make this bend, you might even lose more fluid. So I like to do this, pull it, and then slide it in. Keep going until it starts running. Then after it starts running, put the cap on as you pull it out. Once it does that, where you literally see like a stream, I just pulled mine out, it's just finishing off because it overloaded a little bit. That shows that it's done. There we go, that's the front done. No leaks, no nothing from both. It's a good sign. Now, if you're wondering when I was putting this on, I'm sure I didn't show you. I literally just put it on like you do thread lock. I put it on one half of the screw, just put a line of it, and then I put it on, and as you can see, there's a little bit of a goop here, but all the way around, if you were to look, there's a lighter white around it. It was just enough to give it a little bit of sealant. I didn't really care too much. We'll get the whole thing. So now that we've gotten this one done, we're gonna go to the back. Now the front took 1 liter. Let's go and see how much the rear takes. Just do what you did for the front. Pull out, wipe them up while this is draining, put it back in, and we'll start filling it up. So the rear takes 2 liters. So 1 for the front, 2 for the back. Press like if it helped you out and subscribe for more.